So as you guys are currently seeing, I am on my alternative account in War Tycoon, and this only means one thing. Today we're gonna be taking a look at some brand new balance changes which were done in this brand new update, because the USS Zumwalt has just received a very huge change. However, the first thing which was actually changed in this brand new update is all of the boats have actually received a health buff. Firstly, the Barracuda used to be at around 1400 health, now it has been increased to 1500. The Thermo used to be 2000 health, now it's 2400, so that is a 400 health increase, which is pretty huge. The PGO2 used to have 1700 and its health was increased by exactly 500, now going up to 2200. The PR206 went from 2100 to 2500, which is once again another huge change. However, the biggest one in my opinion was the USS Douglas. It used to have 1900 health and they buffed it up to 3000. That is a buff of 1100 health. However, the USS Independence has went through 4200 up to 5200, so that is going to be a 1000 health buff, and the USS Zumwalt has also received a 1000 health buff. These are some really good changes considering the fact they have just added the Independence X, which this thing is pretty powerful. Now the next buff which was also made in this brand new update is the PLO1 has actually had a very welcome change. Unfortunately enough, it's pretty small. It used to have 1300 health and it has been buffed to 1400. They are definitely trying to tackle the power creep problem. However, the PLO1 change has to be pretty sad. Low-key, only 100 health is not the nicest change, but it's still nice for the people that actually use this vehicle. Now the next thing which was also changed is that the standard T90 has also received a buff, and that's going to be a fire rate increase of the machine gun. And I have to say, this is actually a pretty welcome change, and I'm very happy to actually see this towards the T90. As you guys can currently see, if we combine the cannon damage with the machine gun, you are able to actually do some serious damage against the Abrams X. So this thing, at this point, it's definitely no joke, considering the fact that its missile deflectors also work. By the way, thank you so much for Rutik for actually helping me with this damage test. Now the next change which was made is that they have apparently slightly nerfed all torpedo damage, and in my opinion this is not very accurate because the torpedoes have heavily been nerfed. As you guys will be able to see, 4 of the torpedoes from the PR206 will not be able to do the best damage, as you guys will be able to see in this clip. Let me just quickly get into my friend's Independence X for the sake of this, and I'm just not gonna comment anything about his skin, to be honest. But anyway, as you guys can clearly see, this damage is pretty bad, only being able to do 27%. Now the Losos class submarine has pretty much received exactly the same treatment as the PR206. And I feel like the reason why these torpedoes were nerfed is because they were pretty much the cheapest way to do damage to ships in this game, which basically took absolutely no skill. So it was basically damage for free in a sense. But as you guys can clearly see, after I do manage to shoot exactly 1 torpedo on the Losos, let me quickly show you guys, and that's going to be exactly 6%, meaning that on average, you're probably going to be doing around 20 or so, and that's going to be it. And once again, the situation is pretty much identical for something like the USS Los Angeles. Honestly, once again, a very deserved nerf. This thing will only be able to do around 33% after shooting all of the torpedoes at the USS Independence, which in my opinion is once again a good thing. The ships are actually becoming a lot more viable because the submarines were really breaking the meta for a pretty long time after the update was released. I really didn't like them, to be honest. And now finally moving into the main thing that you guys watched this video for. The USS Zumwalt has received a heavy buff. According to Gizmotech, it's a slightly buffed Zumwalt damage. Well, this isn't true because this is a full-on rework. Let me show you guys how good this rework actually is. So firstly, the anti-air missiles have received a very heavy buff because exactly 1 missile will be able to do 42% to the F-35, which means that on average it's going to be taking you up to 3 of them to kill the F-35. However, most of our planes have much lower health, meaning that you're probably going to be 2-shooting planes from now on. Now against the Mi-24 Superhind, this will be a very similar case. On average, you will be 3-shotting it and some other much higher health helicopters. However, on average, the helicopters have much lower health than what the Mi-24 Superhind actually has, which will just be leading to you guys being able to 2-shot most of the helicopters on average, if not even 1-tap something like a Little Bird. So this is already a huge buff of its own. However, that's not the only thing that was buffed. This vehicle will also have much better anti-air capabilities once again, due to the AI turrets being heavily buffed in terms of their damage. As you guys will be able to see, 1 shot from the turret will be able to do exactly exactly 16 damage per hit, and these turrets do have some amazing fire rate, which as you guys can see against the F-35, it would just be leading them to do some insane damage against planes. So you actually have something similar as the CRAM for the USS Independence in terms of the Zumwalt's anti-air damage. And now if we take a look at the damage against the Super Hind, once again it does exactly the same thing, if not shreds this vehicle even faster. Honestly, these AI turrets are actually somewhat useful now. I love to see this. Anyway, let's take a look at the Abrams X. You know, I remember the days when these used to tickle this vehicle, but now this is no longer the case, and pretty much the whole burst or the full capacity of the turrets itself will be able to almost get the Abrams X down to 0%. As you guys can clearly see right now, this vehicle is at very low health after this whole attack. Once again, a very heavy buff. And now the most heavily changed part of this vehicle has to be the 155mm cannons, because these things now truly do hit hard. Against the F-35, it will be able to pretty much do some insane damage and if not almost one-shot this vehicle. So since it's leaving the F-35 at such low health, it's most likely going to be one-shotting most other planes if you do hit an accurate shot. However, another thing is that the capacity of this vehicle has also increased from 5 to 6 shots. And now the damage against the Mi-24 Super Hind. This thing will literally get one-tapped after one shot from the Zumwalt. Oh my god. I think we're back to its prime, guys. Now also taking a look at the overall damage against the USS Independence from one cannon shot, it will be able to do exactly 13% per hit. So if it does do all of its 6 hits, it will most likely be able to destroy the Independence or at least get it very low. And now lastly, the most important part, the brute force exchange. The Zumwalt was always a brute force monster, but now as you guys will be able to see in these current clips, it has become even better at that, and literally it destroys the Independence in a whole exchange in basically a few seconds. So if you do see this thing going around the map, you're basically very screwed. And the funniest part about all of this is after this whole exchange, the USS Zumwalt is left at 57%, so the Independence was only able to do 43% to it. So really, what's gonna beat this thing in a brute force exchange? This means that the Zumwalt can literally 2v1 2 ships and literally come out on top. But also keep in mind, the USS Independence was also buffed. And now lastly, moving into this vehicle's drone, and unfortunately enough, all the drones for the ships have actually left SAD, and they're not really gonna be able to do anything. Unfortunately, the drone itself was not changed in any capacity. It still flies in the same way. It still did the same damage. I'm not even gonna show it to you guys because the damage is just so unbelievably bad. So realistically, guys, I really feel like the Zumwalt has become an absolute powerhouse these days. And just because one thing wasn't changed, that doesn't mean the ship is not an absolute monster now, because it's literally back to how it was previously. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and do let me know in the comment section down below what you think about these brand new changes. Do you support the fact that the Zumwalt is actually better than the Independence X that arguably costs more money now? But in my opinion, this is a very good change. And if this really keeps going, then I do believe that the power creep problem will no longer be an issue in War Tycoon if they just keep doing small changes like this every single week. I really do believe this could help out a lot.